Former San Francisco 49ers cornerback Richard Sherman has some strong takes on what the San Francisco 49ers need to improve on and prioritize this offseason. And guess what? Me and Richard, we see eye to eye on this subject. And let's take a listen to what Richard Sherman is talking about. And I will also provide my analysis on the other side. But first, take a listen as he mentions what has to happen for the 49ers after this season ends.
That offensive line needs to be the number one, number two, and number three priority this offseason. If you're going to pay this quarterback all the money you're going to have to pay him, you want to keep him upright so that he can be the playmaker that he has been. This year, he's been under a lot more duress. He's been using his legs more. He's had to leave the pocket more often than not. It hasn't been great. And without Trent, it's looked even worse. You need a right tackle. No ifs, ands, or buts. No discussion. No nothing. A right tackle. You need to figure out a center maybe in the second round. There's plenty of them in the Big Ten somewhere to find them. Maybe one in the SEC. And then maybe find a guard in free agency. It looks like you have one in Pooney. Put a competition out there at left guard. And I know you can't just draft them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But that's what I would do. We're going to hit on one of them.
So shout out to Richard on the Richard Sherman podcast. Like I said, I have to agree. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably would have seen my post that I made last night during the game. It's a bit of a joke, but it's also kind of not. I had put out mock draft 1.0. I haven't done a mock yet. I typically wait for the season to be over, so we know our draft slot and where to do our picks and all of that stuff. But as you can see, it's nothing but offensive line because that's how I feel. I think that the 49ers offensive line has been one of the biggest issues for the offense this year. Primarily, I talk about the center left guard spot. Pooney has had a solid season. I think he's hitting a bit of that rookie wall where, he's playing a lot more games than he's ever played in a season. And that is to be expected, but still overall, he's having a quality season as a rookie. But the interior outside of him has really been an issue with Brendel and Banks. And then we saw last night against the Miami Dolphins, McKivitz going up against, one of the top speed rushers coming out of this year's class, and Chop Robinson, and just how you can see McKivitz is affected by that speed. And McKivitz is a guy who is always going to struggle with that speed. That's never going to change just based on his athletic profile. To me, McKivitz is a guard playing tackle. I really think he would be better suited at guard, but he's played pretty serviceably at tackle. But again, being serviceable can only get you so far. And when you don't have the entire offensive line working well together, serviceable doesn't get the job done. And that's just kind of where we're at. If everything else was working and Brock could step up into the pocket, that changes things, right? Because you can make sure that the guy takes the outside route by just kind of walling off the inside and riding him out. Brock can step up into the pocket and throw. But when your interior is constantly getting pushed back or giving up pressures, there's nowhere for the quarterback to go. He's getting collapsed. And so, and not only that, I think the biggest issue for me has been in the run game for the interior offensive line. They just can't run. They just can't run behind them. It's Jake Brendel doesn't have any push. He is constantly being pushed back. Aaron Banks' technique is off. Constantly, takes the wrong footwork. Takes wrong angles and gets beat over the top by linebackers pretty consistently. And they just constantly find themselves running into all these bodies, right? So I'm obviously in full agreement with With Shanahan, or not Shanahan, with Sherman, I am admittedly an offensive line apologist, and I probably have the longest leash when it comes to evaluating these guys and being like, let's look at the body of work and seeing what they put together. But we have a body of work, we have a full season, and the San Francisco 49ers, especially with Brock Purdy, aren't going to be able to win a lot of games if they can't run the football. One of the reasons that I believe they have the red zone struggles that they do is because they can't run the football in short areas. They don't have the power. Um, they just don't do it well. I can think of games that they have lost because they haven't been able to block in the red zone in the run game. So it is something that needs to be addressed 100%. I agree with Sherman with that to the fullest extent. I think that if the 49ers are going to truly compete and have a quality offense, they need to change up front. Brendel has regressed, Banks has regressed. Pooney has proven that he is going to be a guy that they can rely on in the future. Trent Williams, we don't really know kind of what his status is with some of the tragedies that he's dealing with. McKivitz will be here, but McKivitz can potentially be your starting right tackle. He can maybe kick down to be a left guard, maybe compete in that spot. If the 49ers feel that's a fit and they can replace him with a different right tackle, but they could also go into the draft with the mindset of, well, we know at baseline we have a serviceable right tackle, not the best right tackle in the world, maybe not a top 15 tackle, but a serviceable tackle that allows us the flexibility to be able to take maybe a second or third round tackle, develop them, give them a year behind McKivitz, and allow them to get up to speed. But I think where they really need to make adjustments is like immediate adjustments is at center and left guard. So we'll see what that looks like, whether they address that in the draft, whether they address that in free agency. Something tells me that that Kyle's not going to want a bunch of rookies on the offensive line. So he's going to have to look into that free agency pool, potentially get a center replacement. And again, this is my assessment. I don't know if they're going to do that. I really don't know, because they seemingly really like Brendel, and Brendel's a great guy. He's a great leader. Everything you hear about him from inside the locker room is smart, but we're just at a point where he is regressing, and I don't think that you can move forward with a player who's regressing. We get it. He is a late bloomer. He didn't get in the starting lineup till 30s. And he's might just be at that point of in his career where, hey, you know, a, the age catches up to you. So maybe that's where we're at. I don't know, but I think there needs to be a concerted effort to improve those two spots. So we'll see if that happens. We'll see how they do that. We'll see. We'll see. I have no idea. Banks is a free agent. Jalen Moore is a free agent. Um, Brendel still has some time under his contract, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. You guys let me know what you think about what Richard Sherman had to say, what I had to say, what your thoughts are on the offensive line. Let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.